today joining me is Dr. Kavya. Thank you so much for joining us. She works at Johnson Space Flight Center, and I'll let her explain more cool parts about her job.
Namaskaram and thank you, Aishi. It's wonderful to be here at IAC with you. So I work at Johnson Space Center, like you said. I've been in the space flight industry, human space flight, I should say, for the last 18 years. And I currently work in Flight Operations Directorate of NASA. And I actually lead our FOD in short, Flight Ops Directorate, in the Exploration Spacesuit program for the Artemis program. And the other hat I also wear is my team is the one that's actually doing the lunar surface operations and training. So we're actually planning on how to do spacewalks on the moon, training the astronauts in how to do the spacewalks, as well as we will be in the Mission Control Center executing these spacewalks when our astronauts are up there on the moon.
Wow. Just imagining that makes me feel like gives me a little goosebumps, and it's super cool that you are working on spacewalks, lunar exploration mission, and you'll be there at the Mission Control Center. And I know you were mentioning that you always wanted to be like an astronaut, and now, I mean, getting so close to working at such a crucial mission. I mean, Artemis is one of the most defining missions of our space generation right now. How does it feel?
I'm living the dream. What can I say? Like every day, it's, I grew up in India until I was in high school. And since the age of 3, in India, your parents would take you to the terrace to feed you so you could eat. And I think that, like just looking at the moon, Chandamama, that really inspired me. And I was a very curious child. And so I would ask, are there sharks on the moon or dinosaurs and stuff? So I think that curiosity as a child just ignited my passion for space. And ever since then, I wanted to become an astronaut and one day work at NASA, living my dream. But more importantly, as you mentioned, it's defining not just this future of space, but future of humanity. So it's a privilege, it's an honor, and I would say it's a crucial responsibility for each one of us in this industry to not only lay the path for space, but as we go, making sure that we do this very conscious space exploration for conscious planet, and bringing back the essence of both exploration and sustainability back to Earth. Yes.
That aspect of doing this consciously and still retaining the essence of it, which is exploration and sustainability. I'm so glad you mentioned, because it's very close to my heart, and also the theme for this year's IAC has been around sustainability. If you could also help us understand what kind of an educational background you went through to get yourself here, because I'm sure so many people would want to know that, and I know it takes a lot of work and of course a lot of study. So what was your path like?
Ever since when I grew up in India, I was really, I love math and science. And my dad told me that whether you do, anything else, just make sure that you're good at math and science, and that's how you can get to the moon. So once I moved to the United States, I did my bachelor's in aerospace engineering from Georgia Tech. I did my master's from MIT in astronautics and aeronautics and astronautics. And I did my PhD in aerospace sciences, working on spacesuits and developing a new technology from University of North Dakota. So you can call me a space geek.
Clearly, but I'm sure it's working great. I mean, you are working at Artemis and it's very cool. I would also like you to talk about Karman Fellowship.
Karman Fellowship?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So this year I've been selected as one of the Karman Fellows. So Karman Fellowship is provided by, it's awarded by the Karman Project, which was basically established to where they bring in space leaders globally, about 15 of them every year. And the essence of the project is we work on 6 different themes of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And more than just working in silos, the idea is to bring people together and form those relationships where we can work collectively. And I've noticed that, so just 2 weeks before coming to IAC, I spent a week in Bulgaria as part of the Karman Fellowship with my fellow cohorts. And we could see time and again, and it was an emphasis, it re-emphasized that we might be divided on the map, but we are united in heart in the vision and passion we have for space and the vision we have for future of space and humanity. So I think that's like the core fundamental aspect of Karman, that it unites people with with the vision of what we want to do for humanity. And in fact, at IAC, Carmen project has received the 3G Diversity Award as well for doing that. And it's really great to see people across the globe that usually wouldn't have probably met. But what unites us is, space. And we are not just like, for me personally, we're not just like when we go to space, we're not just representing a community, a nation, but you are ambassadors of all of humanity. And I think that was so unique about this Carmen project. And I could see it in the way we worked. And we talked, discussed, and came up with commitments that range anywhere from space for peace to climate change to capacity building. And for me personally, it's also about human transformation. And I just mentioned like human transformation so we could become more conscious leaders and explore space in a very conscious way and then bring it back to Earth.
So beautiful. I mean, I know for some people it might sound very idealistic, but it just fills my heart to know that we do have some communities that are trying to work towards that and achieving that. And I think Karman Fellowship is a great platform which I would really suggest our viewers to check and apply for it. And I think it's a great exposure and a great platform. One more thing. You've been at NASA for how long now?
So as a civil servant for the last approximately 4 years,
Okay.
but prior to that, I've been with NASA in various roles. I worked at Boeing for about 12 years, and 10 years of that was actually on the Starliner project. So Sunny Williams, I got to train her, who's right now in space, and we share a long history of working together. And prior to that on the Orion with Lockheed. So it's been NASA whole through, just different aspects of it.
Yeah. Just thinking about it, I feel like it's difficult for you to answer because there would have been quite a few. But yeah, if you had to pick like one thing that really made you feel very excited or that surreal moment that, wow, what am I working on and doing here?
Yeah, you said it's really difficult to choose one because when I first started as an intern and working on a space program, which was International Space Station, I couldn't sleep because I was like wait to get up to and go to work. But if I had to pick something, so on the Starliner program, I worked for 10 years, and I literally saw that program go from PowerPoint designs to launching it, and I served as a flight test director for our first orbital flight mission, and then ran like the biggest human in the loop test campaign with our astronauts in a flight spacecraft in Kennedy Space Center, and then seeing it launch into space and being at mission control, the Boeing mission control was something very surreal. And my other part is during this process when I was doing my PhD also, I did that primarily because I really wanted to do a small personal contribution to space exploration, and I never imagined, but my PhD research led to invention of a new technology for spacesuits and other elements that are going to be deployed on lunar surface. And to know that now variants of that technology are being tested for use on Artemis, it's really something that I never imagined would happen. So I think it needs to stand out as something.
That's wow. That's so nice to know, and I'm sure it's a surreal feeling, and how crucial that you've worked on something which has become so significant, and it must be so fulfilling as well. Since you mentioned Starliner, if you're okay talking about it for the benefit of our audience, one, I would love for you to share how has your experience and interaction been with Sunita Williams? What is she like? What has your interactions been? And right now, even though she's up there, some of the headlines have been like she's stuck in space. I personally don't think that's the case. She is there. She's been there so much. I'm sure she's all right and she'll be back in some time. So since you've been the flight director when the flight testing was happening, I think you can help our viewers understand she's not stuck in space and she'll be back. And so yeah, if you can help us share some bits about this whole thing of Sunita Williams being there and how have your interactions been with her?
Yeah, so I call her my space mom. I, in fact, first met her at IAC in 2007 when I was just out of college.
Wow.
Working at Lockheed. So And then she came on board onto our program as the commercial crew cadre in 2015. So seeing her as a role model and inspiration, and then working with her, and training her was something like a dream come true. And she's a very good friend of ours. And my daughter calls her Sunny Auntie, and she loves her Sunny Auntie. So it's so wonderful to see her in space. And in fact, we were joking before she left that I was thinking, they worked so hard on this program for nearly like 9 years, and to see her only be up there for 2 weeks was, something like not so fulfilling for me. I want to see her up there for longer, and it turned out that it manifested that way. And the mission that she launched on is crew flight test.
Yes.
The name says it's a flight test,
Yeah.
which means you are expecting, to learn as you test this flight. And that's why we picked some of the top pilots to be on that mission.
Yeah.
And during the process of the launch and docking, we've, the company and agency have learned a lot of things as they went through. And they've decided for the safety and in order to receive some critical data, they've decided to extend Sunny's and Butch's stay on board so they can bring back the spacecraft and learn further on some of the, they had certain leaks in the system that they could learn. And this is exactly what flight test demonstration means, is to be able to learn that. But we need to educate the reporters and people who are recording on this, because they may not understand what we are exactly doing. So, but I think we did the right thing to bring them back safely, right? Like safety of astronauts is really paramount. And so she's not stuck in place, by the way. She's having a great time. I've been, in communication with her. So, and it's just amazing to see, I think she's a role model for so many of us in India.
Absolutely. And I think that's what I was trying to tell some of my friends when they asked me that. One thing for sure, I have obviously never met her or interacted with her, but whatever sense I've gotten about her from the industry, I can assure you she's not stuck up there. She's just all right and she's having fun there. I'm sure it gets challenging sometimes when, you've not planned for it, but you're there. But that's what space is about. You cannot completely plan it.
Exactly.
And it's not simple. And these things just remind us all the time that how much we need to keep ensuring, keep testing. And our safety, like you said, is paramount. So, guys, she's not stuck in space. We've heard it from her. She's been communicating and she knows it better. So, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Kavya. And thank you for talking to us about your journey, about Karman, about your experiences. I'm so glad I could have this chat with you. And also for mentioning that you met her here at IAC years back, and that just shows how crucial and how significant a platform IAC can be, and that's what IAC stands for. So thank you so much for joining us. Hope to connect with you again sometime. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ayushi.